Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Algonquin Highlands is located on Treaty 20 Michi-Saugig territory and in the traditional territory of the Michi-Saugig and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We also acknowledge a historical shared presence of other Indigenous nations throughout the area, and we recognize these original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda for today? Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu, be it resolved that the April 17th, 2025 agenda be approved as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof today? Hearing none, the only remarks that I'd like to make is to offer a very sincere thanks for all the support that I received while I was off over the last couple of weeks. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of April the 3rd? Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Barry.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Councillor Barry, be it resolved that the April 3rd, 2025 regular meeting minutes be approved as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. We have no public meetings or no delegations or presentations. Did anyone wish to have either of the items on the consent agenda pulled? Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive and approve the consent agenda? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Barry.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Barry, be it resolved the items listed under consent agenda are considered routine and enacted in one motion. Each matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes of the meeting. And council has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various staff reports containing proposed recommendations, and further council approved and adopt the April 17th, 2025 consent agenda and recommendations contained in the staff reports, and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions.
All in favor? That's carried. So first up, building a bylaw. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Mayor and Council.
Tell us all the exciting news in the building and bylaw department.
Not that exciting yet, but I feel that there's a trend upward. It is starting to get a little busier. Last month, we had 10 building permits, which resulted in a generated fees of over 6,500 and a value in excess of 430,000.
Any questions for Greg? I was interested in noting that you had a follow-up on short-term rental, which is kind of good to see that there's activity starting there.
Yes.
Did that come about as a complaint or just as something that the department picked up?
It was a complaint.
If you don't mind, I'm just wondering if you could let us know what the plan is for septic inspections going forward.
Yes, we have that pretty well ready to go. We'll be sending it to the CAO next week, and hopefully you'll see it very soon.
Giving us some options.
Giving you some options, yes.
Okay, right on. Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the building and bylaw report? Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Barry.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Councillor Barry, be it resolved council received building bylaw report BLDG 625 regarding March monthly activities for information.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up is Parks, Recreation and Trails. Good morning, Mr. Card.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
So first is your monthly activity reports.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. The past month has been very much about staff recruitment for all of our seasonal positions, which continues to be ongoing. We're making some great strides, but still have a couple positions open and accepting applications for. Interested folks can go to our website for more information on that. In the past month, I have been able to reach out to Eorn just in consideration of the co-locate fees up on the Dorset Tower that we want to review for our internet companies and cell phone companies on the Dorset Tower. I'm hoping that they can provide me some information on some common fee structures and processes associated with that I can take into consideration as we develop that down the road. And I'm just waiting for more information from them on that. I did request a updated parking master plan proposal for what we wanted to look at for leading a philosophy type discussion associated with a parking plan. And I was informed just 2 days ago that I should see that updated proposal next week. So I'd be able to hopefully bring that to the next council meeting for consideration. Of course, both the Dorset Recreation Center and the Stanhope Hall will be polling stations for the federal election on the 28th. So looking forward to welcoming folks for that. And we've been planning for the installation of our swing set pathway wildflower garden up at the Oxtongue Lake Community Center right now. As long as weather cooperates, everything's in place to be able to make that happen at the end of May. So really looking forward to that. And we've also been able to see our first draft of the Russell Landing design, moving towards tendering that. And then council can expect to see in the coming month or two our draft community questionnaire for the Fletcher Lake Landing, which we're working on developing at the moment for the next project for next year. Those are my highlights.
Well, sounds like some good news there. I was glad to hear you mention the tower fees. There has been an inquiry about the tower fees and, you know, what's appropriate and not, you know, given the, let's say, the size of the proponent, number of customers that they've got. At any rate, what I had advised was if there were any concerns that the person should contact yourself and or write into council with their concerns. The only other question that I had was if we've made any headway with the Indigenous garden for the park in Dorset.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I do currently have a site meeting planned in May with AECon for that consideration. Last I updated council, I had mentioned an opportunity to involve the Indigenous community through an Indigenous gardening greenhouse, which puts those types of plans together. Unfortunately, I haven't been successful in engaging them on this. So we are still in search of some sort of partnership with the Indigenous community on that. And I hope to be able to reach out to representatives of the Curve Lake Reserve to see whether or not they might be able to give some information or be interested in assisting or know some people in the area who might be interested in assisting. But getting that partnership is the challenge right at the moment. And as we look at what it is that a design would entail, of course, I'd like to be able to have that very much informed by that partnership. AECon is willing to look at assisting with the actual construction work and the installation, but they need a design. So I need to get that partnership in place.
Don't give up. You know,
Yeah.
I do think that it's important that we have that. And I know that there had been some suggestion by the park donor about, you know, him helping us with that. But let's see how we make out before we contact him. Any other questions or comments for Chris on the activity report? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive it? Councillor Short-Reed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Counselor Shortry, second by Deputy Mayor Dayou. Be it resolved that council receives Park Recreation and Trails Report PRT 525 regarding monthly activities for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next up, the log chute discussion. I
Yes.
just cry after reading your report. But anyway,
Yeah, and thank you through you, Mayor. Well, I reached out to Parks Canada and I was able to have a good conversation with them. There were several things on the meeting agenda. My initial hope had been just to discuss the considerations around the log chute, but they had brought up a few other items that they wanted to discuss at the same time. And just to quickly go over that portion, and then I'll go into the log chute, which all of it's partly combined, is there's property on each side of the dam structure. And our hiking trail, being the Crest of Kinesis Trail, crosses the dam structure and then heads up onto the hill. And the Crest of Kinesis Trail heads all the way over to the Circuit of Five Viewpoints at Little Hawk Lake. Fantastic trail. But the first, let's say, approximately 100 meters of the trail is also on Parks Canada land. So as we're discussing this, and they've made it clear that they want to get an agreement in place for everything that we have there, being the trail and the log chute, that has all come together. So we had anticipated some replacement to the stair structure that we have there that we do plan this year, and it is in this year's budget. So we'll be going ahead with that work. But further, going to be having some meetings with their visitor safety and prevention coordinator there to look at some thoughts that they have for the traverse up the hill off of the dam onto the hiking trail. Which overall shouldn't be extensive, probably some types of like handhold railing type systems that we'd maybe look at developing in the future. And then to get into the log chute itself, the main question that council had asked me to reach out to them on was when they're going to be replacing the dam, and looking at that relative to when we might want to replace the log chute structure. So the dam replacement's not in their 5-year plan, and they don't have a timeline for the replacement right now. The dam asset manager did say that it's reasonable to assume it will be within the next 15 years. However, they haven't done what they refer to as the discovery process on it. And he did communicate, which I think is a huge consideration for us, that they can't be certain that when they do the replacement of the dam, that it would be in the exact same location. Meaning it might be a little bit upstream, it might be a little bit downstream, or maybe it would stay in the exact same place.
what
But
does a little bit mean?
and it's impossible to say. And what he meant by it when I asked is they would need to build a cofferdam to replace the existing dam. One option would be to leave the existing dam in place, do the construction downstream, or build a cofferdam above it and replace it where it exists. Until they get into the engineering process and the discovery, they won't decide which is best. But he thought it was important to let me know that, because if we replace the log chute now and they move the dam downstream, either way, we'd have to move the log chute during their construction, but it may significantly alter the entire design if the location of the dam changed.
Well, not just of the log chute, but of the access to the trail as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. So with that in mind, what I had put in the report is council may wish to consider a replacement that would consider, once we know more about their timelines and understanding where that would actually go, and in the interim, removing the damaged log chute. And I'm saying that because there are concerns of mine, and we haven't reviewed this from an engineering perspective or anything like that, but the log chute continues to deteriorate. And just making sure that it doesn't deteriorate to a point that it becomes more cumbersome to remove in the future. So moving towards the removal now, And to do that, engaging a consultant only to talk about the process and see what the potential costs with them putting a plan together would be that I could bring back to council. And then looking for direction from council then whether or not we'd want to go down the path of a replacement prior to the dam construction or a wait and see approach.
Thoughts or comments from council? I've got lots of thoughts and comments, but Deputy Mayor Dayu?
Thanks, Chris. You know, it's such a fine balance. Obviously, we want to make sure that safety is maintained. That's number one. But we also want to have the beautiful log chute there. You know, to take it out before we absolutely have to would be a shame. And I also think that the further along in time we get from the time the chute is taken out to the replacement time, should council decide to wait until, you know, the reparations are done, the higher the chance that it will not be replaced at all. Because we're talking about one and possibly two councils from now making that decision. And if there isn't that memory of it there, you know, we run the risk that someone in the future will say it's not an important enough thing to put in, which would be a terrible, terrible shame. So I'm personally in favor of keeping it for as long as we can, but safety is certainly the key.
Have you looked at it lately?
Last year.
It's looking pretty bad. Like, I mean, it's in bad shape and it is deteriorating faster than I'd like to see, that's for sure. And I know that there has been a risk or a concern about kayaks going down the log chute, which they have done in the past. I can't see anybody with, you know, with two eyes and clear vision deciding that they're going to do that now. I don't think you could do it now, but still, you know, I just kind of wonder about the whole issue of liability. And the safety aspect of it. I mean, the longer we wait, the more it will cost to remove it. I hear what you're saying. It just isn't the same visual. It's not the same when you look at it now. I mean, it's a damaged structure. And I hear the concern that you've got about, like, the longer we leave it, you know, the memory's not there, the desire. Although I don't think that the folks that live in that area are going to let us forget about the log chute. Or anybody who's had anything to do with it. I would want to ask if you've given any consideration to who the consultant might be that you'd ask to have a look at it when it comes to removing it.
I'd start with Tulloch. That's who we work with currently on our landings projects and some of our other buildings projects right now. So I'd be able to, while they're on site for various other meetings, have them stop in and give an opinion for no cost.
I just was kind of wondering about talking to Hawk River Construction because they were involved in the building of it in the first place. I mean, just as a sort of a side discussion. And go ahead, Angie.
One of the considerations as well that Chris might want to speak to is the fact that it continues to deteriorate, and there is a risk that if there's high water and a higher volume of water going
It's
through
gonna
the
take it
chute,
out.
if it breaks apart, there is a risk that it could block water and cause flooding. So
That's
that
my
is
concern
something that
in,
council needs.
in what Deputy Mayor Dayu is saying that.
Yeah, we won't know how long, if that would ever happen, you know, how long, it could be years down the road, but we don't know that. It is definitely a risk.
Could be this year.
Absolutely.
Further thoughts or comments? Councillor Richards.
I don't really like removing it either until we absolutely have to. But maybe part of that, you know, when looking at costs could be looking at how dire it really is to causing significant safety concerns, like as far as potential flooding and things like that. On the stairs, like we're looking at replacement right now for that, right? And we have to kind of do that for safety. We wouldn't be wanting to close the trail right now while we wait to find out what goes on with the dam,
No.
right?
No, everything as far as the trail access is currently fine. It's just looking to upgrade what's existing. Yeah,
Well, and if we had to wait as long, say 10 years, I mean, I know they're saying that it could be a 15-year window, but even say 10 years, you wouldn't, there could be so much use of that trail between now and then that we would want to go ahead with that.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with looking at what the costing is for removal and proceeding with the stairs. And but I also do very much agree that that community is not going to let anyone forget to replace the lock chute.
Well, and one of the things that I was going to suggest that, because there are a lot of interested parties in the log chute. And that one of the things that we might consider is looking at somehow establishing a fundraising committee or group to ensure that, because it's going to cost a heck of a lot more than anything that's in reserves right now or anything that the insurance company gave us. And the longer we wait, the more it'll cost. And I do think that there would be a reasonably good response to a fundraising group. And I'm not quite sure how we would go or whether it would be us or whether we would put the word out that we're looking for a group to start a fundraising campaign. I'm not sure how that works, from a municipal perspective. But, that would, if the funds were in place, that would ensure that it was replaced, that it wouldn't be forgotten. I wonder if you've had anyone from the Trent Severn Waterway or Parks Canada actually look at the log chute and comment on what their thoughts are about safety concerns, damage as a result of flooding or high water?
no, not specific to those. They have seen it and they have been there and they are aware of what it looks like. And the only thing they've mentioned is it's certainly in a state of disrepair.
I wonder if we can just expand that conversation a little bit to see what their level of concern might be.
Mhm, mhm.
Councillor Richards.
I like the idea of starting fundraising now because that helps to ensure that it's there. So like, would we be looking at starting a committee to do that or an outside?
Well, I suspect we might hear a comment from our CAO. I don't see it as being a committee of council, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do that. It would have to be like a group,
Independent
like a
group.
Friends of the Log Chute. The municipality wouldn't be able to raise funds.
So, I guess we would have to put out some kind of call for interest in setting up something like that. Any other thoughts or comments? Go ahead, Chris.
One comment I'll make just in relation to Councillor Richards' question with the stairs and the access to the hiking trail is what became apparent in the discussion when we were talking about a agreement is that we don't have any agreement at all at the moment that grants us access to the hiking trail that's there. It was essentially a verbal agreement when the hiking trail was created by volunteers when it initially happened. Now, Parks Canada would like to always work together and see the trail continue, but they did say that it's not impossible that a future solution would be that the trail doesn't cross the dam. However, that's not their current intent.
So what I'm hearing right now is maybe we would look into how we would approach establishing a fundraising group or a Friends of the Log Chute to get some pricing on what it would cost us to remove the log chute, much as we don't want to do that. And for you to continue to work with Parks Canada on an agreement.
Mhm.
Councillor Richards.
I have questions on that. Like, if it's gonna be friends, who decides what friends are that start fundraising? Like, what if we have 5 different community groups that want to fundraise? Do we just let them all fundraise, or like, who's deciding who gets to be involved in this if it's not a committee of council?
I don't know. I mean, to me, I would see if there are a number of different groups that they maybe make, come to council with proposals on how they might go about that. I can't see there being 5 different groups raising funds. I mean, there's no reason why there can't be one body that's managing it and other groups that are, that are raising funds consolidated with that, whatever it is, let's call it the Friends of the Log Chute.
And then, just to follow up on your comment about the stairs, does that mean that like a future engineering proposal of the dam might make it a dam that's not like a walk with a walkway across it type dam? I mean, they'd obviously have to get on it, I think, to move logs, but who knows, maybe a future one is completely mechanical. How would we help to maybe make sure that the trail continues to exist in that consideration?
Mhm. And through you, Mayor, I think that this agreement that we're discussing could be an avenue for that. Talk about the future and the dam replacement. I could certainly, once a draft agreement comes back, if it's not there, open up that discussion about it being there.
Yeah, I think we need to get clarity on that.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments or thoughts about how we move forward? Okay, well, we look forward to having further discussions about this. It's a difficult discussion. I mean, the very thought of having to remove it is unfortunate, but it may be something that we really have to do. So if you could maybe read what you have for a resolution there.
Be resolved, council receives report PRT 625 regarding log chute discussion with Parks Canada update for information, and council directs staff to engage a consultant to determine the next steps and costing associated with the removal of the existing damaged log chute structure.
I wonder if we could add and continue to work with Parks Canada on an agreement. Madam CAO.
Work with Parks Canada on agreement for what?
Well, at this point in time on the location of the trail and how we work with that, and I'm not sure, it sounds like they want to have a closer working agreement with us. We might have to work on acquisition of land if we're on Parks Canada land. Like I can see there's a number of things that will come up. I don't want to be too specific. 'Cause I can see a discussion would possibly lead to other things that we hadn't anticipated.
Okay, just as long as Chris has that
Yeah.
clarification. Thank you.
Sound reasonable to council? Could I then have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Richards, Councillor Barry. All in favor? That's
Mm.
carried.
Still writing.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I was missing, yes. I was missing a word in there. Okay.
Okay, so let's hear once more what you've got there.
Moved by Councillor Richards, seconded by Councillor Berry. Be it resolved, council receives report PRT 625 regarding log chute discussion with Parks Canada update for information, and council directs staff to engage a consultant to determine next steps and costing associated with the removal of the existing damaged log chute structure. And further, council directs staff to continue communications with Parks Canada regarding an agreement for the use of the Parks Canada property.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, sir. Good luck with those discussions. Next up, environment business. Good morning, Ms. Murray. So you have your environment activity report.
So just, of course, the issue of March was with our ice storm, and so we did have some closures of our waste disposal sites resulting from that. And I just wanted to bring some information to council regarding that because we did have some concerns because Algonquin Highlands wasn't severely hit by damage because of that, but we still had some site closures that extended into the beginning of April. And that wasn't necessarily because of the conditions of the site, but because of communication. So we lost communication, and as council it knows, it was difficult to get messages out to the public. Even it was difficult to get messages between our staff. So it was not a safe situation to be able to have the sites open when there was no communication available there. So just a clarification there. If folks are wondering why that closure extended a little bit longer than
Wondering or complaining?
maybe
A bit of both.
a little each. So yeah. And on the good note, we are gearing up for summer hours beginning May 1st. So we'll be expanding obviously our hours availability, and just a reminder everyone, keep using your pink waste disposal cards until further notice.
Comments or questions for Melissa? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the report? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Richards.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, Council receives environmental report EB 1125 regarding March monthly activities for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next up, Public Works. Morning, Mr. Thorne.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
So first is your monthly activity report for
Yes.
March.
Thank you. Basically, things are going, according to the season. As you can see, we were full swing snow plowing and sanding, and then we were right into nice warm weather of graveling some of our roads. So it's an interesting month. Key item to point out here, like our environmental coordinator manager, was the ice storm that we experienced on March 28th. We did declare a significant weather event for the time that took place. And like was said earlier, we really didn't receive a lot of tree damage on our roads, but we did have certainly a lot of snow and ice that took up a lot of our staff's time to get out there and get that cleaned up. We did do a very good, efficient job of getting over our roads and cleaning up what we needed to make our roads safe. That it allowed us to go and help another municipality, which was a great experience and a great opportunity for our crew to be able to do that. So we sent 2 crews on one day and 3 on the second day. So it was great that we were able to help out with that.
Okay.
Other than that, it's just basically, going through the motions of the seasonal changeover for us to go from winter to summer. So it's been grading roads and cleaning up and just getting things ready for the next season.
Any questions on the monthly activity report? Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Thanks, Adam. Your thoughts on the fuel sale reduction year on year for February? We went from 1,580 to 270, which feels big. And I wonder if you had any insights.
Yeah, so the fuel sales is just based on the weather. This has been a long winter, so typically where you'll see our big fuel sales, especially in jet fuel, will be for M&R typically. So if we have a dry, quick season, get into the dry season very quickly, M&R will get up and going. sooner than later. This year, I wouldn't say they're delayed in any reason, but it's just, there's so much snow and moisture in the ground that we just haven't seen the air traffic. I honestly thought I'd see a little bit more from other entities like Hydro flying around, but just nothing substantial.
Any other questions or thoughts on the month activity report? You could have a mover and a seconder then to receive it. Councillor Shortreed and Councillor Richards.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, council receives Public Works Report PW 825 regarding March monthly activities for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is are the set of minutes from March the 25th. Any comments on that?
Not for me for this meeting, no.
Okay, could I have a mover and a oh, did you have a question, Councillor Berry? Mover and a seconder to receive the minutes for March 25th. Councillor Shortreed and Berry.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Councillor Berry. Be it resolved, council receives the airport committee meeting minutes dated March 25th, 2025 for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next are the minutes from April the 10th. And I think there are a couple of things that came out of that. Do you want to speak to that, Adam, or?
Sure. Yeah, so the first motion is under I, which is food vendor and food trucks. The motion is that we would like to, the committee would like to close the parking area of the airport. So the thought here is that by closing it, it will allow safer access through the parking lot for pedestrian walking back and forth. It'll allow us to utilize that space a little bit more as well as the event is growing. Access to the water will still be available. It just, you wouldn't be able to drive a vehicle into the site. The only vehicles that are allowed to come into the parking area would be vehicles that are a part of the event itself.
Councillor Berry?
How would that work in regards to like accessibility? Handicap parking and that type of thing?
So there is only one accessible parking spot. So we would have to accommodate something at the entrance of one side of because there's two entrances, we would be able to accommodate something like that at either of those entrances for one or two vehicles.
That's my only concern.
And I think with respect to the water, I know some people would not necessarily want to walk in with a big jug. We could maybe post a sign at the airport for a couple of weeks in advance, just letting people know that water, won't be available between the hours of the event, but that they could come here. It's not like it's a great distance to travel.
Certainly we could do that. And we would also have our communications coordinator post that on all our social media sites as well.
Do you have a resolution prepared for that?
I do.
You want to read the resolution and then we'll.
Second.
Oh, so they're together?
Yes.
Okay, so the other request is with respect to camping, if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, so some of the committee members brought up a really good opportunity to have what they would call underwing camping. Other airports allow this where planes can fly in, pilots can come in, and if they're staying over for an event or something of that nature, they're allowed to camp on site. So we've had the request that potentially that some pilots might be interested in this operation. So the committee's looking for that approval to allow some on-site camping. Now, through our discussion at the committee meeting and looking at our operations at the airport, I certainly have no issues with something like this, although I would suggest that we can call it the underwing camping, but we wouldn't allow them to literally camp under their plane. We would designate an area within the airfield that will allow them to camp in a safe location and yeah, we see that that could be beneficial to this fly-in.
So it would be off airside. If someone from, you say they knew people in the area that wanted to come visit, that we wouldn't have, people walking airside. It would be close to the washrooms.
So just to correct that, no, it would be on airside.
Oh, okay.
But it would be behind the airport garage. So it technically is within the airside fencing. However, it is off of the apron and away from where plane
Where
traffic
planes
would
would be.
be. Yeah, yeah. And each pilot that would have to register that they're going to stay with us prior, and they'd be given a basically a document of the do's and don'ts,
Do's and
good
don'ts.
practices. Yep, yep.
Because there'll definitely be some do's and don'ts. And it does sound like this has been a real positive thing at, other airport events that are taking place. It allows people to come from further away and stay overnight. There's actually been an accommodator fairly close to the airport who's suggesting that they make accommodations available and would actually transport people back and forth. We need to do a little bit more clarifying on that. But it's sort of, things are lining up quite nicely.
Yep.
Madam CAO?
I just want to let council know as well that we have confirmed with our insurance company that there is no issue with the camping if council wishes to approve it.
Great. That's good to hear. And I also understand that there's been an RFP put out for food vendor there on a permanent basis.
That is correct, and it's closed on the 15th with no attraction to it. Now, I have spoke with the communications coordinator and I've asked for it to go back out again. So it's back online again, but no appetite for that, no pun intended.
Well, we just have to keep trying. Okay, let's hear what you've got for a resolution.
Be resolved, council receives the April 10th, 2025 Airport Committee meetings for information. And council approves a temporary closure of the Stanhope Airport parking area to public vehicle travel on May 24th, 2025 from approximately 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and direct staff to provide appropriate notice to the public. And further, council approves temporary on-site camping on May 23rd, 2025 for pilots only attending the May 24th, 2025 fly-in event at the Stanhope Airport in accordance with procedures required and in a location approved by the Public Works Manager.
I wonder if we should extend the overnight camping for 2 nights, like one night before, one night after. I'm just kind of wondering about your thoughts on that, Adam.
Yeah, sorry, let me take a look at that. Yes, certainly. If the fly-in is on the Saturday, the 24th, yes, May the 23rd, they fly in on the 23rd, and then they could stay over the 23rd, 24th, and leave the 25th potentially. I would think that that would be reasonable.
Any thoughts on that? So, okay, could I have a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Short Reed. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Nothing under finance, nothing under communications. Okay, so next up is administration business. And then some unfortunate news about the application that we submitted to Tree Canada for funding of the green burial area.
Yes, good morning, Mayor and Council, and through you.
morning.
Yes, unfortunately, we were declined for the green burial had let us know in November of 2024 that there was a grant to do some tree planting. We successfully submitted an application for the timeline, but we were notified we were not successful in receiving the grant. So this is just a report to provide council with that information, and then just seek direction that staff would like to bring a report back to council with some opportunities and options for funding to execute the plan.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're continuing to look into, other opportunities. I would also like to see us see if we could follow up with Tree Canada and find out. Now, it may be that there was a short window of opportunity. I just would like to know if there's something that we need to do, something that we missed, that would make us possibly more successful if we apply through them again, which I gather they've urged us to do.
Yes, and through you, Mayor, I have sent that request for information just to ask how we could strengthen our application in future for future projects.
Any questions or comments about that? I'm assuming that to anything that we do going forward, we would continue to work with the master gardeners.
Absolutely. Valuable partnership for sure.
Councillor Barry?
Just inquiring to know if the master gardeners have been made aware that we were unsuccessful.
So through you, Mayor, after the agenda was posted, I received a call from the master gardeners, and so we had a good discussion yesterday. They were aware that we were unsuccessful, and they look forward to the options brought forward back to council and how we can work together.
Excellent. Any questions or comments, thoughts? Want to read what you have for a resolution?
Be it resolved, the council receives Deputy Clerk Report DC 825 regarding Tree Canada funding for future funding opportunities related to St. Stephen's Cemetery Green Burial Section for information, and council directs staff to investigate funding opportunities and develop a plan for implementing the naturalization project for the Green Burial Section at St. Stephen's Cemeteries, which will include incorporating the plan submitted by the Haliburton County Master Gardeners with a report to be brought back to a future meeting for council's consideration.
Any questions on that? Mover and a seconder. Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next under administration is the report from the Integrity Commissioner for last year. Did you want to speak to that, Dylan?
Just to highlight the report that was submitted, there was one request for advice and there were no complaints filed, so no investigations. The Integrity Commissioner does point out some potential changes to the act around the code of conduct for council. Council may recall that staff brought a report back a few meetings ago, just in the change when the provincial election was coming, and there was a comment period open, so council did review the proposed changes, and we did provide the comments of council that at that time. However, if it comes back again, we'll present it to council. It's
Okay.
reintroduced.
I did ask Don to do a little bit of follow-up on this because we put tender out for the Integrity Commissioner as a joint proposal with all 4 municipalities. I do know that Minden Hills has changed their Integrity Commissioner. I just I had some concerns about the timing of the responses and actually to a couple of the responses of just general inquiries that were made to Mr. Fleming. So I just wondered if you'd heard anything back or any concerns from the other municipalities.
Not as of yet, no. I have reached out to
Okay.
one so far.
So at this point, we're just receiving his report. Could I have a mover and a seconder then to do that? Councillors Barry and Richards.
Moved by Councillor Barry, second by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved that council receives the 2024 Annual Integrity Commissioner Report prepared by Tony Fleming for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is a correspondence from Mountain Trout House asking for support for a municipally significant activity. I guess you can have a beer with your haircut. Any comments or questions about that? I did wonder if they were raising funds for any particular reason, but it doesn't sound like they're doing that. Like there's any specific beneficiary of the event. You want to read what you have for a resolution?
Be it resolved, council received correspondence from Vanessa Slack from Mountain Trout House Marina for information, and council hereby acknowledges Saturday, June 14th, 2025 is a day of municipal significance for the purpose of Mountain Trout House Marina to obtain a liquor license with the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario.
All in favor? That's carried. Next are the minutes from the Stanhope Museum from February.
I didn't get a mover and a seconder for that.
Oh, I'm sorry, to mover and a seconder for that resolution. Councillor Shortreed and Barry. Okay. All in favor? It's carried. Stanhope Museum, any comments from the members of council? Councillor Barry.
No, these minutes were from some time ago. We're actually having our next meeting next week. As the museum, I think this is common knowledge, but as the museum is closed in the winter, the committee is committed to doing sort of more work with sessioning down in the basement, as well as sort of updating their online presence. And the hope is that eventually the exhibits that come down in the fall will be able to be seen and sort of highlighted online. So it's kind of a new twist on history. So it's great.
I'm wondering about the process associated with the artwork for the false windows. And I'm hoping that would, I'm just kind of not quite sure what the process they're going to enter into for that. Whether we're going to put out an RFP on their behalf, whether they approve it or it comes to us for approval, or if there's been some kind of discussion about that.
I think right now it's sort of in the brainstorm sort of idea point. I think the idea is just to maybe put a call out for entry to see if people would be interested in applying. I don't know if an artist would do it, as a donation, but maybe just seeing if there's a budget attached to that and what's available in the museum existing budget as it would go forward.
Can't really see an artist wanting to donate their time to do it, but questions or comments?
I think we'll cover that again at this meeting.
Okay, look forward to
Yeah,
hearing
more about that.
more about that. Anything else?
No.
Okay, could we have a mover and a seconder then to receive the minutes? Councillor Shortreed. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Dayu. I know I'm moving back and forth a little bit on the resolutions. We did make a decision about how we would approach them. Some of them are pretty black and white, and others, I think there's an interest in hearing what we've got for resolutions. So I'm sure that will iron itself out over time.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, council receives the Stanhope Heritage Museum Committee meeting minutes dated February 3rd, 2025 for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Nothing under planning. The only thing I would like to ask, if maybe through you, Madam CAO, if there could be a little follow-up on where we stand with Habitat for Humanity and any housing initiatives. I know there was kind of like, well, both of us were kind of waiting for the other. I'd just kind of like to see where I've had some inquiries about that from members of council and the public on what we're doing. So if we could go ahead.
Absolutely, yeah, through you. I know that was made clear to Sean before a couple of meetings ago, I want to say. So I believe he's done some inquiries, so I'll ask him to follow up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks very
thank you.
much. Under external board meetings, have we heard anything from the partnership or the health hub? Please tell me they've met.
Unfortunately, I haven't, but I'm hounding for the date for both.
Okay. Well, we look forward to hearing some news from them. Anything from the Upper Trent Water Management Partnership or Muskoka Watershed Council?
Nothing for the Upper Trent. There's been no meetings. The Watershed Council last meeting, they actually had a nice event, but I was at the airport committee instead. So
Good decision.
so maybe next time I'll have something to say.
Well, it looked like there is a watershed, like a local watershed council meeting next month.
Well, yeah, they're doing
So we look forward to that. Seeing if there's any action there. With respect to the OPP Detachment Board, we have received a couple of reports. I'm really excited about the method that the new chair of the detachment board, how he goes about things. He's really good in giving us updates on things. We haven't been able to have a meeting. The meeting that we had, last meeting we had scheduled, we had to cancel. But he did give us a bit of an update on a shooting that had taken place, I believe, in the Irondale area, which is extremely unfortunate that that the police had to shoot someone. And of course, there's all kinds of follow-up with respect to that. And that they have hired a new detachment commander who I think will be starting in June. It's a lady who will be moving here, which is a really positive move in my mind, because the last few detachment commanders have not lived here. It kind of makes you think that they're interim. But it sounds like she's willing to stay here between 3 and 5 years at a minimum, which is to me very good news. That's about all on the partnership, or sorry, on the detachment board. Anything on the library board?
Yeah, our audit results came in and findings were impeccable, full marks all around. The KPMG auditor says that Halliburton Library shows consistent success in managing the books, but also in adapting in these ever-changing times of library services. Our numbers are showing that we're successfully making that adaptation and staying ahead of the curve. It was a delightful report.
Well, that's good. I think we can probably offer some thanks to the finance department of the county as well. Madam CEO?
Just a question, if I may. We, in years past, got circulation numbers for both of our branches. We aren't getting those now. Would it be an ask if we could continue to get those?
Absolutely, yeah. If I may?
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I can pass that along. They're still generating the circulation reports and they're available on the library board agendas, but it would be easy peasy to just have them forwarded, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Forward to that. Anything under community safety and well-being that you'd like to bring forward?
No, the community safety and well-being meeting was postponed due to the ice storm and follow-up work in Minden, as were a couple of other things during that time.
Well, and the coordinator has been pretty well involved in that as well, from my understanding, so I will look forward to their next meeting. Anything on the Muskoka River Watershed Communications Committee?
Yes, the MNR has downgraded the Muskoka River watershed from a flood warning to a flood watch, which is unusual but good news, I would have thought, for this time of year. Flood watch effectively means it's spring, ladies and gentlemen. You mean it's really anything could happen. It's spring. That's all that means. The next update will happen today or tomorrow.
Okay. And we just keep our fingers crossed that we have a good spring. As far as county council update, county council canceled their last meeting, and I know that they have been extremely involved in the, in the flooding and the ice storm and the ramifications of that. They've been meeting on a regular basis. I was able to go to the last meeting that they had, and it sounds like they've got things well underhand. Hydro One was saying that they, well, this is a number of days ago, that by now everybody is reconnected, with the exception of a very limited number of properties that are remote. No one is actually living there, and they've got a little bit more time to get them reconnected. But everything else sounded like it was well in hand. It's unfortunate to hear that a number of, I think almost every municipal office but ours closed. And I think we were fortunate in not having maybe as much damage as some of the other communities, but It will be interesting to see in the upcoming report that we look forward to at County Council about service delivery, whether there will be some recommendations with respect to handling of emergency management by the county on behalf of the lower tiers. But I don't have a crystal ball on how that may come out. Any questions or anything else that you can think of you'd like to add? Well, I think then maybe we will break for 15 minutes. Is there a resolution with respect to those reports? Break for 15 minutes for coffee. We'll call the meeting back to order. We have nothing under general business. Are there any notices of motion? Hearing none, were there any items pulled or were asked to be addressed under correspondence?
No.
Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the correspondence listing? Councillor Shortreed and Barry, thank you.
Moved by Counselor Shortreed, seconded by Counselor Barry. Be it resolved, Council receives the April 17th, 2025 correspondence listing for information.
All in favor? That's carried. So next is the closed session. So can I have a mover and a seconder to go into closed? Councillors Shortreed and Barry, thank you.
Moved by Counselor Shortreed, seconded by Counselor Barry. Be it resolved, Council hereby adjourns its open session at 10:22 a.m. in order to proceed into closed session for the purpose of discussing personal matters about identifiable individuals in accordance with Section 2392B of the Municipal Act 2001 SO as amended, conduct of individual.
All in favor? That's carried. We'll call the regular session back to order. We have no bylaws for this meeting, so could I have a mover and a seconder to, having said there's no bylaws, a mover and a seconder to approve the confirmatory bylaw? Councilors Barry and Shortreed.
Moved by Counselor Barry, seconded by Counselor Shortreed. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-49 being a bylaw to confirm proceedings of the council held during its April 17th, 2025 regular meeting be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed.
All in favor? It's carried. And a motion to adjourn. Councillor Barry, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Counselor Barry, seconded by Counselor Shortreed. Be it resolved that council adjourns its regular meeting at 11:11 a.m.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.